A key party to that conflict, the United States, not taking part. President Donald Trump, in a televised speech at the White House, repeating his call for allies to take action to secure their own interests in the strait. Singapore convenes a top-level ministerial committee to coordinate a national response to crisis in the Middle East as it takes steps to boost resilience in energy and supply chains. We're joined by Barbara Slavin, Distinguished Fellow, Middle East and North Africa from the Stimson Center. Ms. Slavin, we're just looking at Asian markets not finding any reassurance in that 19-minute address from Donald Trump. Did you find reason for relief or reassurance?
Yeah, it was only 20 minutes, fortunately. No, I didn't. If you were looking for indications on exactly when the war would end, they weren't there. The prospect appears that there will be more violence, more bombing. He didn't specifically refer to American ground troops, but as you know, we have Marines and paratroopers that are assembling, so it's possible there could be a ground component. No, there was no reassurance, and there was also no clear statement of goals for all of this, apart from degrading Iran's military and its civilian infrastructure.
Given that an address like this, you could argue, coming a little bit late in this war, is the chance for the president to make it very clear to his home audience why it's necessary not just to go to war with Iran, but to go to war with Iran now. Do you think he has not made that case? And if he has, he keeps changing its goalposts. The targets, whether it's completed, that's changing as well.
Yeah, I think the rationale for this was that Israel convinced the United States that there could somehow be regime change in Iran, that removing the top leadership of the country would bring about massive changes that would be favorable to the United States, to the region, and to the Iranian people. But that hasn't happened. As we see, leaders have been replaced, in some cases by people who are even more hardline, and the regime is continuing to crack down on the Iranian people. I mean, there have been executions of people who were arrested in January during protests. So on all levels, this certainly has not made things better for the Iranian people. In terms of the region, of course, we've seen Iran retaliate against its Arab neighbors as well as Israel. And we all know what's happened with the Strait of Hormuz and the price of oil and other commodities. So I think the president went into this war with some illusions about what it could accomplish. And now he's trying to salvage a rationale for the conflict so he can extricate himself. But a lot of the problems specifically involving the Strait of Hormuz are going to remain.
Can this be salvaged at this point?
Well, I suppose if Iran is somehow weakened, that might be a positive outcome. But Iran could also become more radical. And as I mentioned, it still has control over the Strait of Hormuz, and it also has an ability to continue to use missiles and drones against its neighbors and perhaps resort to terrorist activity. In Iraq, an American freelance journalist has been kidnapped by an Iran-backed militia. This regime has a number of ways in which it can destabilize the region and the broader international economy. I think it's, Trump is already declaring victory. He will declare a victory when the United States decides to stop. But it doesn't look like a victory to me.
You said as well, I've learned through sad experience not to trust what Mr. Trump says, but only what he does. So let's leave aside 19-minute addresses and look at what he has done, or reports, for example, on troop deployments. Looking at these, what can we expect in the Middle East in the weeks ahead?
Well, we can certainly expect more attacks on Iranian infrastructure. And unfortunately, those attacks include civilian infrastructure, pharmaceutical plants, the Pasteur Institute, a university, Again, it seems as though the intention is simply to set Iran back. One thing Trump said was that he was going to send Iran back to the Stone Age, which is a line from the Vietnam War. I'm old enough to remember General Curtis LeMay saying that North Vietnam would be sent back into the Stone Age by American bombing. Iran will still be there when this is all over. There will be tremendous damage. All of this will increase Iran's incentive to use the Strait of Hormuz to try to recoup, to gain revenues that it can use to begin to repair the damage. It will get worse before it gets better. That is clear. And we still don't have a fixed end date, although at some point, I think Trump, when he sees the economic damage and the pain to the U.S. economy in terms of higher gas prices, gasoline prices, he will want to call a halt to this.
And a final question. Do you see this war ending as it has started, relatively out of the blue?
Yeah, I think it's going to be arbitrary. It will have to do, though, with the price of gasoline, the price of oil, the stock market, particularly the American stock market. Trump bragged last night about record stock prices. Well, obviously, we're not in record territory right now. So he will call a halt when he determines, I think, also that the political damage is becoming unbearable. We have midterm elections coming up in just a few months, and all indications are that the Democratic Party is going to do extremely well. So that will have an impact also.
Oh, thanks. Barbara Slavin, Distinguished Fellow, Middle East and North Africa, Stimson Center. Thanks for joining us this evening.